All right, welcome everyone to the LPCA Executive Committee meeting for Thursday, August 24th at 7 p.m. Pacific Daylight Time. I'm going to go ahead and call the meeting to order at 7:02 p.m. Will the secretary please take the roll when they're ready?
Mr. Chair, Mr. Alvstad. Somehow I thought he was here. Mr. Edgar is here. Mr. Regier.
Here.
Mr. Butts.
Present.
Ms. Stump.
Here.
Mr. Ham.
Present.
Mr. Alvarez. No. Mr. Brown.
Present.
Ms. Hallisey.
Present.
Ms. Labachek.
Present.
Mr. Lima. Is he joining in a moment? No.
My knowledge, I think he's still at school.
Ah, okay. Mr. Minoletti.
Here.
Mr. Nichols.
Here.
Mr. Stratton.
Present.
And Mr. Jimenez is not here. And Mr.
Yes.
Borsch.
Here.
There you have it, Mr. Chair.
Okay, so I believe we have at least one. So Mr. Lima is missing, so we will go ahead and seat Mr. Gorsh in his stead. And who do we have absent, just to make sure? I think the vice chair is here. He said he might not be able to make it, but I do believe he's here.
So somehow I'm in as Gary Alvstad. I don't know why that is.
Oh, I changed. I'm
Here,
sorry. My apologies.
Yeah.
I'm going to rename here. I assume he always logs in with the account. So
Yes, the
let me just go
absent
change
members
this.
are Mr. Alvstad, Mr. Alvarez, Mr. Lima, Mr. Jimenez.
And so how many voting members do we have?
We have we have 13, Mr. Chair.
Okay, perfect. And we do have some guests with us. So we have Ms. Brierly from Santa Clara, Mr. Jones. We have our guests that will be allowing to speak shortly. And I think so all the guests are accounted for. So Mr. Roble. Okay, and Ms. Hayes. Fantastic. Okay, good. So we'll go ahead and move on to the next item of the agenda, which is the adoption of the agenda. I believe everyone got the email earlier today where I sent out the agenda. Is everything good on that front? Is the agenda acceptable to everybody as sent out? Okay, I would now entertain a motion to adopt the agenda as submitted.
Motion.
All right,
To adopt
Ms. Stump.
minutes.
No, the agenda first. We're at the agenda.
Motion to adopt agenda.
So Ms. Stump has motioned to adopt the agenda as submitted. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Mr. Brown. And I will say for the minutes, Mr. Alvarez is joining us at 7:05 p.m. That does not change the status of Mr. Gorsh because we are still short one at large. So we should have 14 voting members now. Okay, so it's been moved by Ms. Stump, seconded by Mr. Brown. Is there any objection to adopting, or is there any discussion on the approval, on the adoption of the agenda? Hearing none, is there any objection to the adoption of the agenda? Hearing none, the motion passes and the agenda is adopted. Now we will move to public comments. We have a few members of the public here. If anyone would like to speak, now would be the time. Please go ahead and raise your hand either on camera or using the little emoji. Mr. Butts.
Hi, yes. So a member of Kern County Libertarian Party. He works pretty closely with Decriminalized Nature organization. And right now the initiative to get psilocybin decriminalized is currently in the signature gathering process. It's been going on for about a month now. I have access to the signature sheets, and and the website and whatnot. How can I get that to the party and whatnot, so we can get that sent out?
So thanks for informing us about this. What we can do is you can send it to office or in the XCOM list. Once we have that, we can go ahead and start disseminating that and start putting a plan of action, see how many XCOM members can assist with something like that, and we can get that going. Would be
Okay.
my suggestion.
All right, I'll get with Tristan tomorrow, and him and me will do an email together.
Okay, fantastic. All right. Any other public comment? Going once, going twice. All right, we will go ahead and move on to the approval of the meeting minutes. Those were submitted along with the agenda and other attachments. Did anyone not get a chance to see them? All right, I will entertain motions to adopt the August 7th meeting minutes.
I move to adopt the August 7 meeting minutes.
All right, Mr. Brown has motion to adopt the August 7th Executive Committee meeting minutes. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Mr. Strachan. Beat Ms. Stump to the punch. At large is coming out strong today. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, is there any objection to approving the meeting minutes from August 7th? Going once, going twice. All right, we will consider the motion passed and the meeting minutes are approved. Now we'll move on to the first substantive item on the agenda, which is the discussion and motion on the operating procedures manual. If the secretary would be so kind as to put them on the screen for us.
Just a moment.
And actually, while we're doing that, Mr. Lima is not with us. Would anyone be willing to keep time for the agenda items? Who wants to bear the cross, that strong burden? Mr. Nichols, you're laughing. I'm about to appoint you. No one's popping up. Really, no one wants to do the timekeeping?
I'll keep time.
Mr. Alvarez, thank you so much. So we have 15 minutes for this item on the agenda, if you would be so kind. We can go ahead and start now. So these were things, given our, not the last meeting, but the meeting before it, I thought it would be, after speaking with the parliamentarian, that it would be a good idea to make this amendment to the operating procedures manual to prevent any sort of disruption and decorous behavior, and also just have something in place for the event of technical difficulties. Sometimes we're in dead zones and all of that. So I would like to, does anyone have an issue with this amendment or anything else that has been submitted? The others, actually, if the secretary could scroll down just a bit. So the others are just, those are just cleanup on the OPM. So obviously email aliases need to be hammered out. And then the last two motions for the OPM change are really just removing, I just caught some other language in there that we missed last time that's pretty much irrelevant. So if you'll scroll down just a little bit more, yeah, that doesn't make any sense anymore. Special rules of the order, standing, all of that stuff is just kind of irrelevant now. So unless there is a massive objection to doing that, what I'd like to do is maybe just motion to adopt the slate of OPM changes, unless someone has a strong objection to that, at which point we would do each one individually.
Are you making the motion now, or?
Well, I would entertain a motion if there's no objection to doing it. I'm not hearing that anyone really has an issue with these changes. So in the spirit of expediency, we can go ahead and do it that way. I believe Mr. Jimenez just joined us at, what time is it? 7:11. It's pretty funny. So yeah, I'm not hearing or seeing anyone objecting to any of this. So there has been no motion. So if we wanted to do this expediently, the motion would be to adopt all four proposed amendments to the operating procedures manual. And we can do a vote by slate.
I move to adopt.
By slate?
By slate.
Okay. So we have a motion to adopt all of the proposed operating procedures manual proposed amendments. That's 4 motions that are on the screen now. Is there a second?
I second.
seconded by Mr. Brown. Is there any discussion on the pending motion? Mr. Strachan?
Yeah, just on the first one, immediately in the, why must it be immediate? We, in the incident that happened a couple of meetings ago, it was the subsequent meeting. I just wonder if what was the thinking behind that?
Just so that we could affirm it, then we wouldn't have to take time out of the agenda next time around. That was something that was suggested by the parliamentarian, just to knock it out right off the bat. So if someone were removed, I would just go ahead and remove as the chair that the guilty party, whether it's technical difficulties or other disruptive behavior, and then we would just move immediately to a vote to affirm the action that I had taken, or that the chair of the committee. So this is written broadly to for any committee meeting. So that means ASC, CSC, OPSCOM, whatever it might be. So it's not just for the executive committee, if that answers your question. Mr. Brown.
Yeah, I was just going to comment. It seems like it would also satisfy the condition where if the body found it inappropriate, the action inappropriate, it would immediately remedy that action. So
Correct.
that seems to be another good reason for it.
Correct. So in this case, if, for instance, if someone was removed for indecorous behavior, let's use that hypothetical, then it would go to the executive committee or the rest of the committee members if it's a different LPCA committee, where they would have to affirm that. If they vote to overturn that, then the member would be let back in, if they didn't believe that it was a violation egregious enough to warrant dismissal from the meeting. And we have two people that have joined. Can the iPhone, we have two iPhones that just popped in, just for the sake of can you both unmute or in the chat put your name as to who is who?
Yeah, Adrian, I already put it in my very best.
Dr. Yuskavich. All right, so we can go Yuskavich. Sorry, I was thinking of thinking of LNC stuff.
Actually.
Oh, okay, then it works out. So let me go ahead.
I couldn't rename. I can't rename myself. I'm sorry.
That's not a problem. I can go ahead and rename you now. Give me just a moment. While we're doing this, is there any further discussion on the pending motion? Okay, hearing none, we'll move to a vote. If the secretary could do a roll call vote, please, when he's ready.
Okay.
And actually, I'm sorry, really quickly before we do that, I'm assuming the other iPhone is Mr. Jimenez. Can he unmute to confirm? Because then he would have to be seated. Oh, no, he wouldn't. I'm sorry, because he's technically not. That wouldn't matter. But I do believe that that's him. I'm sorry. Go ahead, Mr. Secretary.
Okay. The vice chair is not here. Okay, we'll start with me. I will vote yes. Mr. Regier,
Yes.
Mr. Butts,
Aye.
Ms. Stump,
Aye.
Mr. Ham,
Aye.
Mr. Alvarez,
Yes.
Mr. Brown,
Aye.
Ms. Hallisey,
Aye.
Ms. Lepacek,
Yes.
Mr. Lima is not here. Mr. Minoletti,
No.
Mr. Nichols,
Yes.
Mr. Strachan. I think you're muted. Mr. Strachan?
Aye.
Oh, there we go. Thank you. All right. And Mr. Jimenez?
Oh, he wouldn't be, he's technically not. We have to reappoint him on the XCOM. And
Oh,
that'll come up
right.
with that later.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Okay, Mr. Gorsh.
Yes.
Okay, Mr. Chair, the vote is 12 to 1 to 0 to 0.
The chair will vote aye. The motion passes with 13 votes. Excellent. So we'll move on to the next item on the agenda, which is the discussion and motion on the mask mandate resolutions. So as I said in the email, if the secretary could get them on the screen when he has a moment. As I said earlier, are in the email. So 4 proposals were brought forth. I'm not going to say who wrote one. Some of you may know who wrote each one, and that's fine. I kind of wanted to eliminate bias. I do know that some people prefer the standard way in which we generally do resolutions. Others find that antiquated and a bit annoying. I can see both sides. I've personally grown fond of them, if I'm to be honest. But I wanted to give everyone the opportunity to, I'm assuming everyone read them through. We're obviously not going to be passing all of them, but these are the options that I'd like presented. The reason for this being that it seems that that's now on the table again, and I would like the Libertarian Party of California to come out very strongly against the mask mandates. When they do get reinstated, there's talk of them already starting to happen in certain hospitals, in certain counties, certain areas, not particularly here in California that I'm aware of yet, but of course that may be coming. So I will add a little bit of context. If the secretary could scroll down to option 4. Mr. Guinier brought this to my attention when this agenda item went out. This was the resolution that was passed at convention by the body. So, well, there are a couple of options here. I wanted to just put this on the agenda and put the feelers out for everybody. So this was passed at convention by the body back in February. We could just adopt this. Well, we wouldn't have to adopt it. We could just go ahead and no one could make a motion here and we can move on. And we could just use this as the official position. But given that other people forgot that this happened at convention because I think we had a break, it was in the middle of elections and stuff, and then this got reworded a few times. So in case that someone doesn't believe that this is strong enough, and I know that initially I think Mr. Guinier's resolution proposal was a lot stronger, and if memory serves, it kind of got watered down a little bit as we were in the middle of other business. So this is the one that we currently have, and we could simply just promote that, put this on the website, issue a press release on this. But I do like some of the other ones too. So I just wanted to kind of open it up before anyone makes a motion on anything. We could just have a general discussion really quickly on where people fall on this. If there's a preference that we keep this and move on, or adopt one of the other ones that were written. Does anyone have a preference? Mr. Brown.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, I like option 1. I think it's straightforward. It doesn't get involved in like arguing about what is the science exactly. I think maybe that's best just to be left alone and just say, regardless of all that, this is where we stand. That's my opinion.
Okay. I will say that I am partial a little bit. We'll scroll down a bit. I think that they're all good, and I do appreciate the authors of all of them. I'm a little partial to option 2, if I'm to be honest, just because it leaves no wiggle room for anything. It comes out very strong. I know it's a little bit longer than most people would like. Mr. Alvarez has done a really good job in the past condensing them, so has Mr. Ham. But I think that this is something that's really important. And this wouldn't fit on a graphic or anything, but that would be fine. I mean, this would be something we could put as a press release in a PDF, and then that would be, I guess, the graphic. That's how I envisioned it. I'm partial to option 2, but I think that they're all good. We're doing the thing that previous administrations didn't do, or we condemned this kind of compliance to totalitarianism. So I'd be curious if there is, well, I assume that, well, I'll say, does anyone else have any other thoughts on this whatsoever? I'm okay with any of them, including the one that was already passed at convention. So Mr. Graham has a preference of 1, 2, 4, and 3. Anyone feel free to raise their hand to get called upon or put their preferences in the chat if they wish. And members of the public, feel free to do so as well, assuming that you got a chance to do that to get a gauge of this. Mr. Butts.
After looking at it last few minutes, I didn't get a chance to look at it before, but I didn't realize, especially when you pulled up what we passed at convention, I didn't realize like that was the exact wording. Reading that, I didn't necessarily care for like, especially like that middle section of what we've already passed. The first option seems really cut and dry. Not really. It seems more like a rant rather than like a political resolution. And I think I'm kind of partial to option 2 as well. That's
Okay,
all.
thank you, Mr. Butts. Are there any other thoughts or comments before I entertain motions? So I will not be making a motion on this. I think they're all good. I have given my preference for option 2 because I think it's a real, middle finger to the politicians that we've grown to loathe. And that would be my preference, but I will vote in the affirmative for any of them. Does anyone else wish to say anything before we move to a vote? Or not to a vote, I'm sorry, to any motion? Ms. Lepacek.
Hello. I do like option 3, actually. The only thing that
Can we scroll down to that one really quickly, Mr. Secretary?
I'm kind
Sorry,
of,
go ahead.
where is it? With regards to a choice informed by their doctor, the only thing I'm hesitant about is that, unfortunately, the healthcare system is heavily influenced by the sad government. So that's the only thing that I would maybe want to adjust a bit if no one's opposed to it. But that's about it. That's my opinion.
Okay, so if you wanted to make that, so it seems that I don't want to say divided because that's not really the right way to say it. So
Right.
everyone has a specific preference.
Yeah.
If anyone wants to make the motion, they can make the motion to as is or with a small adjustment. So if you wanted to make that small adjustment, if you wanted to move for option 3,
Okay.
then that would be the motion on the table.
I make a motion to remove the choice, the section A choice informed by their doctor as well.
Okay, so it would be, so before that happens, that would be, so you could make the motion without, we wouldn't have to go through amendments or anything. So if anyone,
Yeah.
so just to give a hypothetical, if someone were to move to adopt option 3 and strike a choice informed by their doctor, then we could do that. That would be the motion. So then there wouldn't have to be any amendments later on. So far, a motion has not been made, so we can't do amendments on that. But Mr. Brown has a point he'd like to make.
Yeah, I just have an idea. Would it make sense to do something like make a motion that we go to a vote to adopt one of these 4 and people can vote on each one and we can tally them? Or does that not work?
There's a better way to do this. I think let's do this. We can do an informal. We can just do a read the room. I think everyone has them, so let's do this. Just because I won't be able to tally all the hands, or no, I should be able to. That's fine. So if the secretary could scroll up to option 1, let's do an informal poll. Who would prefer option 1 as their primary choice? Can you raise your hand with the emoji? Or I guess you can do it on camera too, and I'll just do a quick tally. Okay, so we have 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, 4 is what I'm seeing. Okay, so let's go ahead and scroll down to option 2. Who has a preference for option 2? Raise your hand. 1, 2, 3. I will count myself as 4, so we're at 4 there too. Okay, who has a preference? Let's scroll down to 3. Who has a preference for option 3 as the primary? And this assumes that we would strike out a choice informed by their doctor, since we've established that the medical community can trust the experts. We're at 4. Okay. Wow, we're pretty even here. And then let's go to the one that was passed at convention that we all know was by Mr. Grenier, although it was amended a lot, if memory serves. And who has a preference for option 4 as the primary? Okay, so option 4 is out, it seems. Okay, so I think we're evenly split. So I guess whoever wants to make the motion, that's the one that we'll go ahead and vote on.
I'll make the motion to adopt option 2, the resolutions about the mask mandate.
Okay, so Mr. Butts has motion to adopt the second of the options. So option 2 for the mass mandate resolution. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Seconded by Mr. Edgar. Let's go ahead and do, is there any discussion on this motion? Let's do a roll call vote for this one as well, just in case, whenever the secretary is ready.
Need to stop sharing the screen to do that. All right, we'll start with me. I will vote yes. Mr. Regier,
I'll vote yes.
Mr. Butts,
Aye.
Ms. Stump,
No.
Mr. Ham,
Aye.
Mr. Alvarez,
No.
Mr. Brown,
Yes.
Ms. Halsey.
No.
That's a no.
No.
Ms. Lepacek,
No.
Mr. Minneletti,
No.
Mr. Nichols,
I'm sorry. No.
Mr. Strachan,
No.
Mr. Gorsh.
Yes.
Mr. Chair, the vote is 6 to 7 to 0 to 0 for resolution number 2.
Oh, so it wouldn't pass anyway. The chair will not vote on this motion.
Okay, the motion fails.
Okay, so option 2 has failed. Would anyone like to make, we're still on this. Mr. Alvarez, how much time do we have on this item? Left, I guess.
We have about 3 minutes and 35 seconds left.
Okay, would someone like to make a motion for one of the other ones? Ms. Stump,
I make a motion to adopt resolution number 3.
I'll second.
oh wait, before that second, is this, I'm assuming this is with the stricken portion that was discussed by Ms. that was first brought up by Ms. Lepacek, right? So option 3,
Correct.
striking the, okay. So, and that's seconded by
Adopter
Mr. Gorsh,
clause.
Yes, second.
and you're okay with that seconding it still?
Yes.
Okay, so option 3 has been moved and seconded with the striking of the, I don't have the language in front of me, but the one medical community. So the secretary knows what I'm talking about, so we're good.
The language that says a choice informed by their doctor.
I believe so. Is that correct, Ms. Lepacek?
Yes.
Okay, so everyone understands what we're voting on. Option 3 with that sentence stricken from the resolution. Is there a discussion on this motion? Hearing none, we'll move to a vote. We'll do this by roll call as well. Oh, you're muted.
Uh,
There you go.
We'll begin with me. I'll vote yes on this. Mr. Regier,
I vote yes.
Mr. Butts,
I'll vote yes. I'm not gonna vote no on any of these. That'd be ridiculous.
Ms. Stump,
Yes.
Mr. Ham,
Aye.
Mr. Alvarez,
Yes.
Mr. Brown,
Aye.
Ms. Halsey,
Yes.
Ms. Lepacek,
Yes.
Mr. Minneletti,
No.
Mr. Nichols,
Yes.
Mr. Strachan. Was that a yes? Okay. Mr. Chair, the vote is, oh, no, I'm sorry, Mr. Gorsh.
Yes.
Mr. Chair, the vote is 12 to 1 to 0 to 0.
The chair will vote aye. The motion passes. It's a shame that we couldn't do this unanimously. It would have been nice to say that the Libertarian Party of California unanimously adopts this, but of course, there's always one. All right, we'll go ahead and move on to the next item on the agenda, which is the discussion on the appeal happening in San Mateo County. Mr. Chris Roble has joined us this evening to discuss this. And I do believe, so I did send everyone the communication that he reached out with, and I'm very curious to hear what he has to say. There will be no motion on this tonight. This is just a discussion. I have allotted 30 minutes for this. We can do a back and forth, but I believe that Mr. Roble will let him introduce himself, give a presentation, and then we can take up any sort of action that may need to be done at the next meeting, if that's the case, which would hopefully be early September. But Mr. Roble, thank you so much for joining us. I hope I'm saying that correctly, by the way. I don't like to butcher names. Well, actually, I'm sorry. Before we do
Sorry
this,
about that. Can you hear me?
let me do the formal thing here. Is there any objection to hearing from Mr. Roble? Going once, going twice, hearing none. Fantastic. So, Mr. Roble, I hope I am saying your name correctly. Please.
Yes, thank you. It's Robel, but that's close enough. Okay.
Robel.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone. No problem. Thank you, everyone. So just by introduction, my name is Chris Robel. I live in Redwood City. I'm a retired CFO, and I'm pretty active in fiscal watchdog of all government activities. So why am I here today? As Chair Maligan mentioned, I have filed an election contest seeking to overturn 2 local school bonds in the Mid-Peninsula here, Redwood City School District and Sequoia Union High School District. Although those are local to this area, they would serve as a precedent to stop the similar problems that are frankly widespread across the state with respect to bond measures. So I did want to clarify, so the trial happened in May. Not surprisingly, the county judge, who is paid by the county, ruled in favor of the county. So I have filed an appeal. That appeal, which I think the agenda mentioned possible appeal, but I've already filed it. It's definite. It's June 22nd. I filed it. And just this week on the 21st, I submitted my opening brief to the appellate court, which I believe is in that email that you might have received, the materials. So I want to share a little bit about what this contest is about. And my ask at the end of this is that the Libertarian Party, and honestly, as many people as possible, even if you're affiliated with other organizations, file what's called an amicus brief. It's kind of the friend of the court. It's just supporting the essential element of this contest. And again, I'm seeking as many briefs as possible because judges are humans, we hope, and they will be influenced by several people speaking out against this that will influence everybody. So this contest, simply put, is about the government using public money to take sides in elections by putting essentially the campaign on the ballot. And what I specifically mean is that I'm talking about the 75-word ballot question, which is the term actually is called the ballot label. And that 75-word ballot label, which is all that people see when they get the ballot, they don't get all the legalese, the ballot measure and the rebuttals and all that stuff, right? That comes weeks earlier, but the ballot has the ballot question and a yes or no. And so that ballot question is vitally important. In many cases, it's all that voters see when they vote. And it's a sales pitch. It's a campaign pitch written by the proponents that want to do this tax. So the laws are very clear. They define what the ballot label must include, and they also define what the ballot label must not include. So just to be specific, the Election Code 13119 says the ballot measure the measure shall state the nature thereof, right? So, and the nature of a ballot measure is a tax, right? They're not asking you to modernize schools and add steam rooms and deal with asbestos. They're asking you to approve a tax, to actually increase the ad valorem tax rate above the 1% as dictated by Prop 13. So it doesn't, of course, use the word tax, nor does it use the word interest rate, which it also has to state what the interest rate is. It also has to state the duration, how long the bonds last, but it doesn't use any of those things. And so that's what it's supposed to say is the nature, and it's supposed to say those truth in lending requirements, like if you get a mortgage, the duration, the maximum interest rate, and the rate, the tax. And what it's not supposed to say is anything that's argumentative. It's supposed to. It says it's argumentative, or an argument is a reason to do something or not to do something. And so what do these ballot labels actually look like? And the labels are, of course, drafted by the proponents, that the school districts that hire a cadre of advisors, bond counsel, polling firms, marketing firms. Props and Measures is the biggest one, and in the Bay Area.com, propsandmeasures.com. And they all are hired to craft that ballot question using, of course, our money to try and get us and trick us to vote yes. So the ballot label laws, like I said, end up being a sales pitch. And it's not just me or whatever that says this, there's 3 civil grand juries that denounced this behavior. The most recent one was in Santa Clara County. The name of the report was, if all you read is the ballot label, you are being duped. D-U-P-E-D, isn't tricked. That was in October of last year. Contra Costa had one, and Santa Cruz County also had one. So I want to show you, if I can share my screen, what these ballot labels, how can I do this? Let's see, share screen.
Yes, I believe you do have options to do that.
Okay, let's see, desktop. Oh, shoot, okay. Share, oh my gosh. Open. Okay, what am I getting? This to come up. Okay, right, okay. I'm not. Does anyone know how to do this?
It should be on the bottom. So
it says
give you the
desktop
option
one.
there.
Desktop, I should just grab this, which I.
And you have the option to share the entire desktop or just a specific window that you might have open.
Okay. Shoot. Okay. Well, I'm not going to take a whole lot more time on this if I can't figure it out quickly. All right. Well.
And then once you select the screen, it should give you an option on the, I think it's the bottom right-hand side to actually share. So you pick the screen first and then you share that. Let me try something on my end really quickly.
Not allowing me to do that, but
try again. I think I just changed the permission. Maybe it was just being weird. No cigar.
Okay. All right, unfortunately, okay. Well, so I did put in the chat room some things that we can, hopefully you can take a look at, but what I was going to show is I actually presented this at the trial. It was a 3-hour trial on May. And I what I showed was for Redwood City School District, it was a ballot question that, the actual ballot question that voters received. And they all start, and I actually, they all start with, to improve local elementary schools, by middle schools, by repairing, blah, 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 making safety improvements, upgrading and adequate healing. So it's a bunch of benefits, right? It doesn't say, and then so it's a sales pitch by the proponents. It doesn't conform with the laws that I just outlined. And then what I did is, in the second one is I wrote a sales pitch that's also illegal if I wrote it. And I wrote it as, to enrich wealthy investors by increasing housing costs for working families in our community who struggle with high inflation. So Redwood City, so I kind of did a silly one that's also illegal, but I'd write it. That's one way I could write it. And then I wrote one that was the conforming ballot label, which is if you actually follow the laws. And it needs to, the law, the first word needs to be shall the measure authorizing it to issue 298 million of bonds at interest rates not exceeding 12%, lasting for 33 years at an estimated rate of $24 per 100,000 to fund school-specific facilities outlined in the bond project list, blah, blah, blah. So, I mean, I wrote, and if you read that one and you read the one they wrote or the one I wrote, you would get very different answers, right? I mean, and so the point is the ballot label drives the voter activity. So the second thing I wanted to kind of highlight is that another example I have is that there were 370 measures in California in November, this past election. 100 of them were school bonds and 71 of them were passed. So that's a pretty good batting average. And it's no coincidence that there's a high batting average. And I have an exhibit, I think I put it in there, that shows for any city that that your city you can pick, and you can see exactly what the ballot label was. And it's no different than the ones that I'm pursuing a contest. They're all
Oh, Mr. Obel, I think you've cut out. Can anyone, oh, Mr. Obel, your sound is off. Can anyone, is it just me? Oh, wait.
No, I've lost
Oh.
sound too.
Mr. Obel, we've lost you sound wise. We can't, he doesn't know. Might have to adjust his mic.
I'm calling him right now to let him know.
Thanks for introducing us to him, Chris.
Yeah, this is some great information.
Looks like he's aware and trying to figure out the logistics here. Well, while he figures this out, I would like our legal experts on this executive committee to weigh in and see what the viability is and how we can assist. And we'll ask all this afterward, of course. But I wanted to give us some time to figure out the viability of this for us before there's a motion, which is why I left it as a discussion item.
Does he still not realize?
No, he's trying to figure it out. I think Mr. Robel, you might have to hop off and then come back in. Oh yeah, I figured it out. So he's going to do that.
Okay, he does realize he's off.
Yeah,
now.
so we'll let him back in just a minute. Where are we at time, Mr. Alvarez?
Eight, 18 minutes, 47 seconds.
Okay, we should still have plenty of time. The Chinese don't want us to help with appeals. That's what's going on. So we're just at ease until Mr. Robel comes back. But this is still being recorded, so keep that in mind.
Yeah, he was going to exit and rejoin. Hopefully that'll solve the sound issue.
And I am waiting to see. As soon as he comes in, I'll go ahead and let him back in. Well, I guess now I can say, while we're at ease, I'll just go ahead and say that the option that was chosen was written by our own Mr. Charles Bird. He's on this call, so thank you so much for writing that resolution on the mask mandates. So credit where credit is due. I just didn't want to give credit ahead of time as to not influence. So thank you, very well written. Oh wait, was it? Okay, maybe I got that wrong. Okay, so Miss Stump wrote option 3, maybe option 1. I got them all mixed up. So Miss Stump wrote option 3, sorry. All right, Mr. Robel's coming back in.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, there we go. Okay, so we lost you about 30 seconds before we let you know, so you might want to backtrack just a bit.
No idea what that was about. Okay, I apologize. All right, so what was the last thing I said? I don't think you heard me. So I was essentially saying that, you know, there's 100 bonds that were on the November ballot, school bonds, right? And 71 of them passed, right? It's no accident because all these ballot labels are the same. So there's nothing unique about the Redwood City ones. They all violate the laws that I talked about. So the Supreme Court has said that the government cannot take sides in an election. And when they do, it undermines our form of government, is unconstitutional. There's 3 cases that are in my brief that talk about those, Stanson, Miles, and I forget the other, Vargas versus Salinas, that all say you can't use public money to influence an election. And they do, because what they do, and this case is against the chief elections official, so in Mark Church in San Mateo County. So he's, you know, the proponents draft the question for the ballot label, you know, biased and argumentative, or making an argument. It goes to the chief elections official, and he rubber stamps it, does not make sure that it conforms with the law, which is mandatory ministerial duty. So then he uses public money to print and circulate these ballots, millions of dollars. So that's how he's using public money. And it, like I said, he's effectively not serving as the counterbalance, which he needs to do in an election. So, so essentially that's the essence of it. The opening brief goes into all the details, but it really is a constitutional issue. with the government taking sides in an election. This case has never been brought forward to even the appellate court level, and certainly not the Supreme Court level. And it's why we have all these hundreds of millions of taxes. I wish more people were on this, but I urge all of you to. I know there's Howard Jarvis is doing great stuff, but I think this is something that's a widespread one for the entire state. And Prop 13 effectively is the rate is going way above 1%. Every year, our rate of property taxes keeps going up, and up because they keep passing these bonds. And so the call to action is to hold these people accountable, make sure they're following the laws so that the voters know what they're voting on. And I think it's I know 100%. I would stake my life on it. The law is on our side. If the the appellate court needs to know that they're being watched, and it also will help if the Supreme Court sees this as well, because they don't take many cases if that's necessary. So I'm asking the Libertarian Party obviously to write, it can be 1 or 2 pages even, just as a reference, and you can reference the arguments that are in the opening brief and say why this is important. And the primary argument being, once again, that the constitutional issue of the government taking sides using public money to rig an election, basically, to take sides in an election. And so that's my ask. And I hope the date for it is, I'm a little concerned about the date of your next meeting being September, because the amicus briefs are due it could be as early as October 15th. So might be as late as October 24th. That's kind of the range, because it's 14 days after the reply brief. So Judge Quentin Kopp, you may know him. I think he was a Libertarian, if I'm not mistaken. He's writing one. Yeah, he's on the Board of Supervisors and the judge, obviously. So there's several people already that are committing, but I want, the more the merrier, and it's it'll send a strong message. So, and not only would it be great to have the Libertarian Party, but even chapters, or however you guys were organized, do it, and also other organizations. Maybe you have taxpayer association groups you belong to, and I'm obviously talking to those groups as well. As much pressure as possible to send a message to these judges that we expect them to hold these chief elections officials to their feet to the fire to follow the law. So with that, I will take any questions.
Thank you, Mr. Robel. So before I pass it off to Ms. Stump, I would like our 2 counselors here to weigh in. So it's Mr. Edgar and Mr. Alvarez. Just because we can't officially adopt something, so hopefully our next meeting, as I put for all executive committee members, will hopefully be the 2nd week of September. So that doesn't prevent them from writing something if they agree that this is something that we can do and move on. It would just, we would adopt it on the 7th at the latest, and then so that would be, so we would still be kind of in line with your time frame, I believe. But after Ms. Stump asks her question, I'd like to hear from our 2 counselors. But Ms. Stump?
Yes. Have you been working with Marcus Crowley with the Alameda County Taxpayers Association? Because he's highly connected with a lot of the other taxpayer association groups around the state.
Yes, so I am working with Marcus. He's not directly involved in this one. Certainly he's aware of it, and so is I'm working closely with Mark Hinkle. That's the one, they're more directly linked with the San Mateo County. Actually, Elizabeth's on the phone here as well, so I'm hoping they will certainly do an amicus brief as well. So yeah.
Excellent. Would either of our counselors like to hop in here and give their thoughts?
It seems pretty straightforward. Presumably there's a Dropbox where all of the, or no, I guess these are available online, all of these California Court of Appeal documents.
They are. So if you go to my, I put it in the chat room. You can see my blog. It has the case numbers. They're all I actually don't see it at the appellate court, but the trial court level has all the documents, and the opening brief that I filed is on my blog as well. So you'll see all the documents and the various case numbers at the Superior Court and the appellate court level. And I also, just as another reference, I put a template. I'm obviously not going to write it but that would be it. But there's also a template on how to do a brief and, you know, some information on how to do it as well. So.
Mr. Alvarez, anything you'd like to put you on the spot, but anything you'd like to add?
Yeah, apologies. I'm trying to multitask. Did you say the government's already has already filed their reply brief or response brief?
No, I have filed the opening brief the 21st, a few days ago. They have until I believe it's the 20th of October they have 30 days. So it's the 20th of October. That's when the county council will do their brief. And then I have 20 days after that to do a reply brief to theirs. And then after the reply brief is done, then it's 14 days when the amicus curiae briefs are due. So that's why the math comes out to roughly mid-October as the deadline.
Yeah, I mean, I'm fine. I'd like us to write a support brief in either case, but I think we could write a more effective one if we see what the government's arguments in favor of their position are.
I'm not opposed. I think this is, I thank Mr. Robel for coming on. I think this is something that we should take on. I think we have two people very capable on here of assisting with that, assuming that they're willing to collaborate here and write something on behalf of the Libertarian Party of California, and that around the 7th would be a time where we could do that. I don't even really think that we'd require a formal motion, but we just to cover our tracks, we could do that. So if Mr. Edgar and Mr. Alvarez wouldn't mind collaborating on something, and then we can pass it officially on the 7th and then send that over to Mr. Robel and continue to work on this. I would not be opposed to that at all. Is that something that both of you would be able to do? And obviously anyone else that wants to hop in and help too, it seems like a no-brainer to use our legal experts here.
Yeah, I mean, my time is going to be a little bit limited during that period. But yeah, I'll certainly, I'll do my best to contribute.
Mr. Alvarez?
Yeah, I'd like to contribute. Just caveat, I'm still pending bar results to be released November 9th, so I can't sign it as counsel, but I'm more than willing to help write.
Okay, Mr. Minoletti?
Thanks. Yeah, I was just going to add, it sounds like maybe we wouldn't need the exact wording by the 7th down to approve it. So we can still approve it on the 7th with the wording to be determined later if Mr. Edgar and Mr. Alvarez's schedules allow, or we could approve the language after if the timing of it is the issue.
Sure. So Ms. Dunn put something in the chat. So Ms. Hayes is a lawyer. She was on earlier. She had to hop off. She's very ill. So she messaged me and apologized. She took a lot of night medicine, and but I'm sure that if she would be more than happy to assist in that as well. So what we can do after this is I can put the three of you on a thread. So Mr. Alvarez, Mr. Edgar, Ms. Hayes, I'll talk to her first when she gets over her illness, and then we can try to compile something by the 7th and see what that looks like, and we can formally adopt that, get in contact with Mr. Robel again, and then off to the races, if that's okay with everybody. Excellent. If we need a little bit more time, I mean, it's not something, as long as we approve, I think that's what Mr. Minoletti was getting at, we can approve it, even if it's still kind of in the works, we can still send it off, even if it's not exactly on the 7th, if time is a factor for the 3 people assisting us with that, then we can go ahead and do that. If we're still looking at the mid-October deadline, that's acceptable to Mr. Robel. It might be like a week delayed or something like that, but it still would be within that time frame.
Sorry, are you saying October 7th?
No, it would be September. So if we can't, we would just, if we don't have the official language by then, but it looks good, then we can just give, we can give our legal experts free reign to do that and maybe send it the week after or something like that and get that going on in September. Yeah. Excellent. Are there any other questions for Mr. Robel?
If anyone has any other people, organizations that might be interested, please send them to me. My email's in there. I would very much, I'm trying to, like I said, get as many as possible. So very much appreciate your support. And if, you know, like I said, if you have any other ideas on who to reach out to, I'm sending letters to anybody and everybody. So
Yeah, so if you'd like to write, I know you kind of already wrote something to me. What I can do is we have a public list that only executive committee members have access to. So kind of an ask, I can blast it out to the membership and see who else wants to tack on and assist in any capacity. So if you want to send me something, I'll copy and paste it with and I already took your information down, but if you want to send me an email that I can send out over the weekend or whenever to see who else wants to hop on, but it seems that you have the support of the Libertarian Party of California.
Wonderful. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate you coming on and dealing with the parliamentary stuff early on and some of the housekeeping that we had to do. So thank you so much for joining us. Really appreciate it.
Thank you. Have a great rest of the meeting. Thanks. Okay.
Thank you. All right, we'll go ahead and move on to the next item on the agenda, which is just discussion update on convention committee. So I was hoping to be interim chair. The two people that I was hoping might be able to assist and take over, I was hoping to have a different agenda item appointing a new chair, but that doesn't seem to be the case. So I'm going to keep plugging along and hopefully someone will step up. If not, the burden is mine and it is what it is. But it looks like we're going to be reaching out to a few more speakers soon. If there's anyone specifically that you want to do, we had a list, but we might have to come up with a new list. There has been some updates on there. So if you have anyone specifically that you'd like to see, I know some of you have already reached out to me personally, but do email convention@ca.lp.org. I think we have most of our convention committee members on here now. I guess I'm not going to call a meeting, but just be aware that I would like to have a meeting perhaps over the weekend or really early next week to knock out some specifics. I've done a lot of math, we can go over the pricing, and I did say math, not meth. It probably sounded like that. Just want to make sure. Mr. Strachan was a little confused when I said math, so I just want to make sure math, not meth. So I'll call a meeting of the convention committee soon. We'll iron out some details and some stuff that I've been working out on the side, and we'll get the ball rolling there so I can make some formal invitations to some speakers. There are tentatively informal invitations pending and all of that, but I wanted to meet with the committee first before we shoot some of that stuff out. So that's it on convention committee. Any questions on this agenda item? Cool. So we'll go ahead and move on to the next item on the agenda, which is a discussion of the Northern Central Southern Area fundraisers. As some of you may remember, my ask for each of the area coordinators was to come up with the time and some sort of fundraiser, massive gathering in their respective regions. Nothing like that had been done before, where I would go to these. So I would drive down to the Central Valley and to the South. And well, obviously I'd already be here in the North. I presumably would have to drive somewhere here too, but it wouldn't be as big of an imposition. Where it would be a meet and greet with the chair, any executive committee members, of course, I would like to be there. People really like to meet leadership of state parties, believe it or not, even libertarians. So it would be a good way to draw people out. We could raise money for both respective counties and the state party and just help with membership. That is down, as I already mentioned in my chair's report, but we are making good strides on that. Talk a little bit more about that during new business. But I would like to have the area coordinators give us a brief update. I'm somewhat aware already of what they're doing and the fundraiser, at least for the South. I haven't connected with Mr. Ham yet, but I'll talk about that a little bit later in regards to the LNC meeting that's scheduled to take place here in California. That's later on the agenda. But Ms. Stump, if you'd like to give an update on what the North is planning for their regional fundraiser.
Yes. As not only Northern Area Coordinator, but Chair for Alameda County. Alameda County has had a event in the late September, October range called Wine and Liberty. And I have recently booked with Bill Smith, who owns Westover Winery still. And we have it booked for Sunday, October 1st. And I've discussed with the executive committee that upon your suggestion that we can create the auction as an option for people to choose where to their auction monies go. The raffle items will go for Alameda County because this is our big fundraiser for the year. But for auction items, we can let the people pick which county or the state if they where the funds will go. So that way, if there's people from Placer County, Humboldt, San Francisco, Santa Clara, Contra Costa, If they'd like to have the money go to their particular affiliate of preference, then we can do that. And so that way it will help draw from, maybe other counties to come and participate in our annual Wine and Liberty event. And I'll be setting up tickets for that. And there's wine sampling and noshies and Westover. Bill Smith, who is a Libertarian wine owner, who's graciously let us hold it at his winery for free. And he refuses to let Democrats hold events at his winery. This may be the very last one because he is selling his house and winery. So this may be the very, very last Wine and Liberty at Westover. So come to this, as it'll be your last chance to buy ports and champagnes and wonderful wines that he's won awards for.
Thank you, Ms. Stump. Really quickly for the minutes, Ms. Lepodchik had to step out at 8:01. She is hoping to come back. She has to rejoin on a different device. There was a technical issue. Oh, well, she's back at 8:02. That was very underwhelming. Okay, so what were the dates that were planned again? I'm sorry, Ms. Stump. I know that you've mentioned
Sunday,
this before.
October 1st. It'll be 1 to 4.
Okay, so I will be there Sunday, October 1st, putting in the calendar. As most of you know, I'm not a huge drinker, but the wine at Westover is fantastic, and I've been known to buy just shy of a case in the past. And if it's the last of it, then you definitely want to be up there.
Their peach champagne is phenomenal, and they have
Is
a wide variety of white and red ports that are all fantastic.
They are. I can attest to that.
And
Again,
white
not a
wines
huge
and
drinker.
red wines.
Not a huge drinker, but I can attest to the deliciousness of some of these wines. You know, it's a lot more convincing, Mr. Edgar, if you're not laughing when I say I'm not a huge drinker. But anyway, for the record, I'm definitely not. But yeah, I will be there. I encourage anyone to go. We'll be promoting it. I will be coordinating with the Northern Area Coordinator on this and getting people out there. It usually is a really big turnout, a good opportunity to meet new people and make some money. So thank you for that. Mr. Butts, want to give us an update on what you're planning for the central area?
Sure. All right. David Gorsh has
with more
agreed
enthusiasm,
to,
if you wouldn't mind, Mr. Butts.
David Gorsh has agreed to host our central area fundraiser at his house in Fresno. It's going to be from 10 to 4, September 23rd. We're going to do a barbecue plate so it's 10 to 4. We're going to have barbecue, chicken, some side dishes, good food. And then at about 12:30, we'll be starting the cornhole tournament. $10 a head, so $20 for teams. Then about 2:30, 3:30, something, whenever the cornhole gets done, we'll be auctioning off items. Or I was thinking about doing the auctioning in the middle, actually. I was changing it around last minute. But yeah, that's kind of where I'm at on that. I've got the Eventbrite login credentials. I need to still create the RSVP event on that and get the email sent out, get everybody invited.
Okay, fantastic. I will be there Saturday, September 23rd. Thank you, Mr. Gorsh, for being generous enough to host that event. And I look forward to it. Again, same deal with as with the Northern Area Coordinator. I will help with promotion. We'll do some emails on Neon and whatever we have to do. We want to really spread the word, get some people down there, or it'd be down there for me, but around there from your area.
And there's a pool too, so that's open. So it's not just the cornhole.
Oh, nice. And there's a pool. There we go. That's how you attract people to places. I love it.
Yeah, please
Fantastic.
come fully clothed, Adrian.
Yeah, this isn't New Hampshire. Please do come fully clothed. There are no nudist areas. You trunks at the very least, people.
Trunks at the least.
Thank you, Mr. Gorsh, for making that clear. This is a Libertarian Party event, so we do have to be clear about stuff like this, for better or for worse. So Mr. Ham, I don't know if you've planned anything quite yet. I know we're going to touch base, but I do have some thoughts as to what we could do if you don't have something planned already.
Yeah, so we don't have something planned at the moment, but definitely open to feedback and syncing up on something that we can do.
Okay, so just on that note, while we wrap up this agenda item, we'd be looking at something in the South in December. So it would kind of correlate with the LNC meeting that's scheduled to take place there. The official date is yet to be known. That's probably going to be voted on at the next LNC meeting. I'll talk about that a little bit more, but we can plan on November. I'm sorry, December. Just kidding.
Sounds good.
December is what I said. Very good. Any other questions, comments, concerns for this agenda item? All right, we will move on to the next. Let me just rename Mr. Jimenez here. Okay, so move on to the next item on the agenda, which is discussion and motion to appoint a new LNC Region 4 alternate. So as most of you know, if you check the LNC business thread, I may have forgotten to forward that to the public list. But for those of you that don't know, Mr. Joshua Clark from Riverside County has stepped down as alternate as Region 4 alternate. It had to do with family, work, and personal issues. So this was not something that came out of the blue. He'd been speaking to me about that for the last few weeks. I asked him to, if he was ready to go, and he had his resignation ready, which he did. While I was at the LNC meeting, I requested that he send that email out. He did, just so I could add that to my Region 4 rep report in real time and assure all LNC members that it's not that he's angry with any of them and doesn't like them or anything like that, but that it strictly had to do with personal issues and all that. So I was able to reassure everybody. On that note, I did try to find who would be the best fit for something like this. And I did reach out to Miss Meredith Hayes, who was on the call earlier. She's the secretary for Contra Costa County and is on the legislative committee. She is a lawyer, for those of you that don't know. And I think it would be very important. It would be very helpful for the LNC to have her on there, because we do have our general counsel on the LNC, but having additional input on legal matters that are in confidential threads would be very beneficial to the LNC. And she's not privy to any of that right now. So it would make things a little bit smoother, and her input would be invaluable without having to pay additional counsel for their time. So that's why I recommended this position to her. This would only be until the end of the term, which is scheduled to end in May. So it would be at the annual convention, the 2024 annual convention in DC. And yeah, so that was my pick, so to speak. Before I make a motion on this, does anyone else have anything to add to this?
Yeah, I do, Mr. Chair. I just
Yes.
want to personally endorse to the XCOM here, Ms. Hayes. She's an outstanding activist and member of the party, and I highly encourage all of you to vote for her.
Thank you, Mr. Hammond. I will say that Ms. Eiler is in support of this decision as well. She was someone that I reached out to too, but she is also in support of Ms. Hayes. So I did consult with a few people before that was done. Any other comments, concerns, questions? Okay. If there are none, I will move to appoint Ms. Meredith Hayes as the new LNC Region 4 alternate. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second.
Seconded by Mr. Seconded by Mr. Brown. Is there any further discussion on this motion? Hearing none, we will move to a roll call vote whenever the secretary is ready.
All right. Okay, we'll start with me. I will vote yes. Mr. Reguer,
Yes.
Mr. Butts,
Aye.
Ms. Stump,
Yes.
Mr. Ham,
Aye.
Mr. Alvarez,
Aye.
Mr. Brown,
Aye.
Ms. Hallisey,
Aye.
Mr. Pache,
Yes.
Mr. Minneletti,
Yes.
Mr. Nichols,
Yes.
Mr. Strachan, And Mr. Gorsh.
Yes.
Mr. Chair, the vote is 13-0-0-0.
The chair will vote aye, and the motion passes. Fantastic. We'll move on to the next item on the agenda, which is the discussion and motion to appoint an LNC platform committee rep. In this case, Mr. Gary Alstead, our vice chair. So for the last, I believe, 2 years, Mr. Alstead has, so the way that this works, just to give you guys a little bit of a background, the LNC votes on to appoint 5 members. So there's an application process. I talked about this last time at the last meeting, where I encouraged any of you that were interested in the platform committee to apply. And I did mention that we get to appoint our own. I do forget the specifics as to which states. Not every state gets to send a platform committee rep. I think it's states that have above a certain percentage of membership. So we obviously qualify since we're our own region, but we're not the only state that gets to send a platform committee rep and alternate. We did have a few Californians apply for this position, not this position, but for the LNC. They haven't applied to us. They applied to the LNC. Miss Eiler is on that list. I fully expect her to get voted on. Voting won't end until sometime next week. I think the ballot went out on Monday, so I guess we'll find out on Tuesday who the official platform committee members are that were appointed or elected by the LNC. This is, we get to make this decision. I'm in favor. I reached out to Mr. Alstead to see if he would want to do it. Again, he's not here today because he had a last minute family medical emergency that he is taking care of, but he has always done a very good job representing us. The LNC agrees. And so I would very much like to see him get reappointed to this position. They're virtual meetings for the most part. I do believe that there's at least one or two, there's at least one in-person one that happens at convention. So he's committing to go to convention and assist with that. There is also an alternate position available. So I would encourage anyone that wants an alternate position, if we don't get someone that reaches out to me directly that would like to be the platform committee alternate, we don't really, I guess we don't technically need one, but we could. They would be invited to all the meetings and have input. But as far as voting is concerned, that goes to the primary appointee. So we can take care of that. I think we have until the end of the year, but if we can knock this out early so that platform committee can start meeting and Mr. Alstead can give his input. As you all know, this does benefit California, or it's important to us at the very least. We have a vested interest here because it's not just the national platform, but it's our platform now as well, since we've gotten rid of the California platform. So I will go ahead and move to appoint Mr. Gary Alstead as the LNC platform committee representative. Is there a second for this?
Second.
Second.
Seconded by Mr. Ham, just beat Mr. Nichols. Is there any further discussion on this motion? All right, let's go ahead and do a roll call vote for this one as well. Making really good time here.
We'll begin with me. I will vote yes. Mr. Regehr,
Yes.
Mr. Butts,
Aye.
Ms. Stump,
Yes.
Mr. Ham,
Aye.
Mr. Alvarez,
Aye.
Mr. Brown,
Yes.
Ms. Hallisey,
Yes.
Ms. Lepacek,
Yes.
Mr. Minnelletti,
Yes.
Mr. Nichols,
Aye.
and Mr. Strachan.
Aye.
Mr. Chair, I'm sorry, Mr. Gorsh.
Yes.
Mr. Chair, the vote is 13-0-0-0.
The chair will vote aye on this motion and the motion passes. Excellent. I will inform the LNC of both appointments shortly after this meeting on the public list. And the LNC secretary, Ms. Harlos, will reach out to them, get their information, and get them on board. Fantastic. So next item on the agenda, the discussion of the Libertarian National Committee just as a whole, I guess. So I want to give a few updates that I think that you'll be all looking forward to. So the previous quarterly meeting, as you know, I was in DC for about 5 days, give or take. And a lot of stuff has happened. So I don't know how many of you tuned in to watch. That was people expected fireworks, and unfortunately they were disappointed. It was good. So the first thing that really happened that doesn't particularly affect us, but it does in some ways, that the Region 1 representative was removed. Now, this was something that was done by the region. So again, all of the regional representatives are sent and they're supposed to represent the regions. We are Region 4. Region 1 consists of Oregon, Washington, Nevada, Nebraska, Colorado, and I'm sure I'm missing some other state. But anyway, they voted to remove him. They gave him a vote of no confidence. And it was a result of him leaking confidential information from executive session and other confidential documents. So we didn't have to take any necessary action outside of censuring him. Once that was done, everyone was very apprehensive about this meeting. But once that was done, and this all took place within, we took the proper steps at the LNC. I was part of the investigatory committee for Mr. Duque, and everything kind of went as well as it could have gone, probably better than it could have gone. So Region 1 right now is in the process of choosing a representative themselves to replace and an alternate. So usually the alternate would step in, but the alternate resigned about a week before Mr. Duque was removed. So so once that was done, everything went really swimmingly. So the culture on the LNC, well, I'll get to that in a minute, but I guess, does anyone have any questions? I'm sure you've seen stuff across social media and whatever, maybe you haven't, and that's for the best, but any questions on the removal of the Region 1 representative? He did not resign, he was removed, Mr. Minoletti. So.
Okay. No,
Yeah.
that was my understanding before, so I wanted to make sure either one way or the other. So he was removed, okay.
Yes, he refused to resign, which is why they removed him. They gave him the option to step down with grace and he chose not to. But good question, thank you. So the next thing is I was, the next, for those of you that haven't heard already, the 2026 convention for national is expected to take place in Grand Rapids, Michigan. We heard proposals from 3 different cities, Chicago, Denver, and Grand Rapids. No one expected, for those of you that saw the meeting, they gave presentations. So all the venues and the representatives from those respective areas, when I say representatives, I mean from the corporations or the hotels or the venues that we'd be doing this at, gave their presentation to the LNC, and we were able to knock it out in real time. Unfortunately, Denver was wildly underwhelming. That was, it was really, I was hoping to vote for Denver, but their presentation was very lacking. They weren't prepared. It didn't seem like they cared if we had our business. Chicago was incredibly expensive, and some might argue Murderville, USA, which is problematic. But Grand Rapids really pulled out all the stops. They've wanted our business for a long time. They gave a great presentation, and they really, really are willing to bend over backwards. So the reason I bring all of that up is that there was a vacancy in the candidate oversight committee. So that's almost the equivalent of our convention committee here in California. And I was appointed based on the what was it, the convention committee report that the LNC did receive, and my work from last year, despite all of the uphill battle stuff. I was appointed to the candidate, I'm sorry, it's convention oversight committee. I said candidate incorrectly, and I wrote it incorrectly on the agenda, so I'll submit a correction. But so I am now on the convention oversight committee for the LNC, and this will be not only talking about DC stuff, but also Grand Rapids when we start ramping up to that. But I just want to let you all know that was an appointment that happened, because that does affect California. Just one more thing that I have to do, and it's particularly funny since I didn't want to have anything to do with conventions, but they were, I had to get talked into this one, and they really want to hear what I have to say, and they think that I can assist. So I'm willing to assist in whatever capacity I can. That comes from everyone. I believe it was a unanimous appointment. So everyone thought at the very least that the convention committee report from last year was more than qualifying for me. So it is what it is, but I wanted to inform you all. Are there any questions on this? All right, this is the big one. So second big one. So LNC culture, it's really amazing to me. So not to harp too much on Mr. Duque and his actions, but what those of you that have been plugged into the LNC business list and social media have seen the type of person that he is and his character or lack thereof. LNC culture was not particularly great just a few weeks ago when I became Region 4 rep. Miss Eiler will be the first to say, I mean, that was one of the reasons that she resigned, was because of the attitudes of some members. And it really was an accumulation of members. It was one that was kind of spearheading this, and that was Mr. Duque. It's almost amazing what the removal of one member from an otherwise functional board can do to improve the culture. The rest of the meeting, and if you guys haven't watched it, and if you have time, I would recommend that you just give it a look and watch how the LNC meeting went for the duration of that weekend. It was fantastic. I got along with everybody. People were really happy with me. I was happy meeting all of these people. The culture has just wildly changed. We got a lot of productive stuff done. Normally, productivity isn't something that these big boards are known for, but we were able to, we got a lot of feedback in the comments section. And also I got reached out personally by just members that watched the live stream that were really impressed with how things have changed. And we'll say the lightheartedness that I bring to certain aspects of very serious situations on the LNC. So that's a breath of fresh air apparently, and very well received. So, and I got to play with baby Arthur pretty much the whole time because I was sitting next to the chair. So that was fun for me, getting to play brown uncle to the LNC chair's son. So that was fun. The LNC is in a really good place right now. I know that there have been some grievances about how stuff has been going in the past, but the future does look bright. Everyone seems more than willing to work together now. We all seem to, for the most part, share a vision. So, removing toxicity from a board really does wonders. One person can destroy, one person can help, it seems. So, and when you sub those out, everything's good. So I want to just reassure everybody. And of course, as your Region 4 rep, if you have any questions about anything going on at the LNC that I can discuss, then I'd be more than happy to do that. But I came out of that meeting with very high hopes and very high enthusiasm after a lot of, I guess, turmoil that had happened when I first entered into this position that you appointed me to. So I just want to say that a lot of stuff is good, still work to be done, but we're in a much better place just after this weekend than we were before this weekend, which is fantastic all the way around. And I'm very excited to be working with all of the people that I have only seen on video. And we had a great time, as great of a time as someone could have in Washington, D.C. I'll say that when you're with fellow libertarians. But any questions on LNC culture stuff? Cool. So now here's the big one. So because I impressed and dazzled, I was able to put forward the presentation for the next LNC meeting. So the LNC has not come to California since 2008. I give a very compelling pitch as to why they should come. We are the largest delegation. We need to get some enthusiasm and have, the thought from California has generally been, well, what has the LNC done for me lately? And they all kind of had to shrug at each other and say, that's a very good point. We haven't been further west than New Mexico. And then it's also like, why New Mexico, right? So I was able to convince them to come to sunny California. We will be doing this in Orange County. So there was no formal motion on the table because we were running out of time. And there were some discrepancies regarding the dates. So I initially proposed, as you'll see on the attachment that I sent out, the secretary doesn't have to put it up on the screen or anything, but we're doing it at the Renaissance Club Sport. That was picked by Miss Eiler. She helped me with all of this. So I was able to put a proposal together. They liked the proposal. They liked that it was going to be in California, that they're going to be in the near Anaheim area, that they might be able to make it a whole trip. And so the only issue that they really had was with the dates. So the dates on that report initially had the first week of November, but outside of California, I mean, that's an election weekend or leading up to elections, so people are going to be really busy. I didn't take that into consideration. I was trying to be considerate of the cost of the flights, the hotels, and all of that stuff, and not interfere with any major holiday plans that they might have between Thanksgiving and Christmas. So, but that didn't fly with them. That was their only grievance with that whole thing, but something has to be done before the end of the quarter. So I'm going to propose the first weekend of December, which is when we would probably, and to go back to the point that I was making with Mr. Ham, that's when we would do like a Southern area fundraiser. There's a tentative schedule already in that proposal. I'm not going to go into detail. Some stuff has changed, so that might be too late for a candidate training, for instance. So we might have to do something else instead, or just do a separate candidate training thing down in Southern California or somewhere where we have the most candidates or people that would be willing to go. So that's something that I will talk with the CSC about offline when we have our next meeting. So some of that has changed. We can't do a huge jam-packed Liberty weekend. We can focus more on fundraising, camaraderie, and getting new people excited and members and all of that stuff. And so yeah, so that should be, does anyone, so I guess what I would say is tentatively put, unless someone has a different idea or whatever, tentatively put the first weekend of December in your calendars, because the joint meeting thing is still very much going to happen. And that was also my pitch to them. They want to meet a lot of you. They want to see what California is doing. And it gives us an opportunity to talk to the LNC an opportunity to talk and know us. So we will be having a meeting, I believe, next week. The chair has tentatively called for a meeting on Thursday, I believe. So what I'm going to pitch is going to be the 1st, the 2nd, and the 3rd of December. I think that that's far enough away from any sort of holiday plans for not just us, but for them. It's kind of the sweet spot between Thanksgiving and Christmas. So does anyone have thoughts on any other dates that I should propose, or does the 1st, 2nd, and 3rd of December work for most everybody here for an in-person meeting? And this would be an in-person meeting for us. Cool. Be good. All right, so I will keep you all updated on when that happens. The official motion I will put forward after the chair gives official notice to the meeting. I'll send that as an agenda item, and then I'll let you know when that's officially chosen and everything's good. We'll have room rates, all of that information. I'll have to call the venue shortly after that's done so that we can make sure that we have all of that. If anyone wants to help me plan something or wants to get in on that, let me know. Most of it is already planned at this point we're talking about. So I will talk with Mr. Ham offline, or anyone else in the South that wants to help with this. That would be our big fundraiser for the South, and that would be in December. So please do reach out to me if you have any questions about that. Anything on LNC stuff? I think I blew through that pretty quickly, but gave some good updates. No, going once, going twice. Cool. All right. Next item on the agenda, the discussion motion to appoint LPCA XCOM first at-large alternate. So as you know, we changed our bylaws at convention. So anyone who misses 2 meetings automatically is removed from the XCOM. They have to be reappointed. Mr. Jimenez has been very gracious and always taking one for the team. For those of you that don't know, he's a surgical tech, and sometimes he gets pulled into a surgery at the last minute. Last time he was going to make that meeting, but it ended so early. I think he hopped on right after we adjourned. So that was kind of funny. We shouldn't even have to do this, but he's always been good about that. And he's on there now. I know he's driving and doing some stuff right now, getting back. But I'm just going to go ahead, just for the sake of expediency. I would do this for anyone else on this committee that obviously takes one for the team. This has been done on the LNC in the past as well. So I will move to appoint Mr. Max Jimenez to LPCA XCOM first at-large alternate. Is there a second?
Second.
Second.
Seconded by Mr. Ham. Is there further discussion on this? Is there any objection to appointing him as the first at-large alternate? Okay, so he is appointed. He'll be seated immediately at 8:30 p.m. And if there is, I know that he's driving down from a family situation in Oregon. So if he votes, he can do it in chat if he can, or try to unmute. All right, we're at, what are we at? New business. So there are some items of new business here that we need to touch on. I think I will give the floor to Mr. Regier.
Yeah, thanks, Adrian. Yeah, I'll just be direct. Yeah, regretfully, I have to inform the XCOM that I will be resigning as treasurer effective September 6th. I've had some changes personally with my family and whatnot. Yeah, I'm going to have to just make some changes personally and professionally, and it's going to require me just going to require me to take back some of my commitments professionally and personally. So anyway, I want to just apologize to the XCOM and the membership. It was always my intention to serve out the full 2 years of this term. I'll do everything I can to make this transition as easy as possible for whoever the incoming treasurer is, and try and do what I can to just make sure that the momentum doesn't stop for the party and that everything moves forward in as smooth a fashion as possible.
Thank you, Mr. Regier. So this is something that he did approach me with a few weeks ago. He's been gracious in staying on. We've kind of hammered out a transition plan. There is someone that I would like to take that role on, and that's what we'll discuss. We'll have to appoint a new treasurer. So I'm hoping that on the 7th, we'll get to that in a minute, but I do have someone that I would like to take on that role. And it's really important for those of you who are unaware, I'm sure that most of you are. This isn't something that I would just open. If this was a normal vacancy, like an at-large resignation or something like that, we would open it up to the public. We'd give some time for people to come in. But when something as important as the treasurer role, it needs to be someone that's qualified, that works well with the chair, that's going to be available at the drop of a hat. No pun intended to Mr. Regier and his hat. But it is something that's really important. So I do have someone in mind, and there's a transition that we've discussed. Once that'll all be made known, hopefully by Thursday, we do have to appoint a new treasurer shortly after that, and then there will be a transition period. And Mr. Regier has been very gracious in agreeing to do what he can to make, as he said, a smooth transition take place. So I guess I'll open up the floor to any sort of questions that anyone might have for Mr. Regier, or anything else regarding this topic, I suppose. All right, well, Mr. Regier, we thank you very much for your service and for you to, to do it this way and, to look us in the eye, so to speak, while you do this and not just do it out of left field. So we really appreciate everything that you've done. You've been a fantastic treasurer. I thank you for willing to work and stay on as long as possible to help the transition and make it as smooth as possible, because you're invested in this. You're a lifetime member. You want to see the party flourish and grow. So I really definitely appreciate everything that you've done and stuff that you'll continue to do. I'm sure that you'll be still assisting in your own capacity as you can moving forward. And we very much wish you well.
100%. Thanks, Adrian.
Thank you so much. Are there any other items of new business? I thought I had one that I mentioned earlier and I totally forgot what it was. Maybe we covered everything.
Next meeting, Mr. Chair?
That'll be the next, yeah, it's its own agenda item. I thought I had something else, but oh well, out of sight, out of mind, I suppose. Anyway, does anyone else have any new business or anything else that they'd like to bring up at this time? Okay, we'll move on to the next item on the agenda, which is the next virtual meeting. So I have proposed Thursday, September 7th to coincide with the treasurer's resignation. And just to make things a little bit, you want to do this sooner rather than later. So Thursday seemed to work the best for people. That's why I proposed it. So 7 p.m. on September 7th. Who does that not work for? Or is there a proposed different date? Man, this is so easy. Okay, cool. So we'll do, oh wait. Mr. Brown's connection keeps dropping on and off, so I'm letting him back in again. Okay, there he is. Okay, so is there, so everyone's good with September 7th at 7 p.m. So at this point there would only be 2 items on the agenda that I can think of at this point, maybe 3. It would be a very short meeting, just to be clear to everybody. So the 3 main items would be to appoint a new treasurer, to adopt the brief language from Mr. Robel, and then possibly a platform committee alternate for the LNC. But those are the only things that I can think of that are really pressing at this time. But everything else should be okay. I might have 1 or 2 other items, but that meeting shouldn't last longer than 20 or 30 minutes. We actually made stellar time here. I really thought we were going to go on for about another half an hour at the very least, but we've done well. So, okay, so if there is so I guess what I'll do is I will move to make the next virtual XCOM meeting Thursday, September 7th at 7 p.m. Is there a second?
A second.
Seconded by Mr. Alvarez. Is there any discussion? Is there any objection to the motion on the table? Hearing none, the motion passes. So our next meeting is September 7th, Thursday, September 7th at 7 p.m. Okay, any action items? I guess the action items would be, let me just scroll up here really quickly. We do have a few. Oh, I have a question for the secretary. I may have missed it. I probably missed it for sure. Before I do that, the minute, I just got asked about this the other day, the meeting minutes for the last ones that we passed, are those, do we have drafts of the last, oh, I'm sorry, do we have the final versions of the last 2 meeting minutes so I can throw them on the website? Someone asked me about that the other day.
Oh, yes, sure.
Yeah, if you want to email them to me when you get a chance, I can go ahead and toss them up. Unless you want to do it, it's up to you. But I don't mind taking care of that.
Yeah.
And then
Why don't we talk briefly about how to, yeah, since we don't have a website administrator at this point, how to do those uploads, but we'll talk about it later.
yeah, we can, well, as soon as we adjourn here, we'll just stay on and hammer that out really quickly. So let's do this. I think action items are, so the mask mandate resolution that passed, I will connect with Ms. Stump to make sure that starts circulating. We'll debate whether at some point we will do a formal press release, but maybe we want to hold off until someone here in California is affected. Although I did see something about how masks are being required again at Kaiser's in LA. So maybe we do it sooner rather than later. So I'll connect with the chair of social media and communications to get that press release out on the mask mandate resolution that passed. Another action item would be connecting Ms. Hayes, Mr. Edgar, and Mr. Alvarez to the amicus brief language. Is it amicus or amicus? Because I always use ecclesiastical Latin, so it kind of throws my pronunciation off. I thought it was amicus. That's what it would be.
Attorneys usually say amicus.
Oh, so weird.
I had a professor say there's no Roman still alive, so go wild with it.
That's a good, but you know what? Jesus is alive in all of our hearts. So I'm going to do it the right way, but the Catholic way. Actually, will have to double check that anyway. It could be amicus, and my Latin's rusty, I will admit. Okay, so we'll connect those people. I need to schedule a convention committee call, which I guess I'll do within the next day or so here. I will meet other action items. So all the area coordinators, we will meet offline at some point to coordinate and make sure that we are good to go with getting the promos out for all the fundraising stuff and all of that. Another action item is I have to inform Ms. Hayes and Mr. Alsted that they were both appointed tonight and let the LNC know. And I think that's it. Wow, a lot more action items than usual. Cool. All right. Anything else that I've missed? Excellent. We'll move on to the last item on the agenda, which is adjournment. Who would like to do the?
In Mr. Lima's spirit, I'll motion for adjournment.
In the spirit of Mr. Lima, Mr. Alvarez has motioned to adjourn. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Ms. Stump. This is a non-debatable motion, so we'll go straight to a vote. Is there any objection to adjournment? Hearing none, we are adjourned at. I wanted a nice round number, but I'm not going to do that. Well, no, I know. I was just holding off to see if it would turn to 8:40, but okay, we're adjourned at 8:39 p.m. All right. Thank you all. I will go ahead and end the recording now.
Thank you.
Good night, y'all.